How many times have you revised your comic or manga? Hi, I'm Steve. I watched these 3 videos and they were insanely helpful in understanding manga and comic book composition. Sound and movement, writing true manga brilliance. This video dives into the principles of what makes a manga page an engaging read. Dragon Ball Super manga, embarrassingly bad? In this video, you can learn from the mistakes highlighted in this critique to avoid. Fixing Dragon Ball Super's manga. This video provides practical solutions to common layout issues, giving you actionable tips to improve your composition. Note, these videos contain strong language. I put to practice what each of these videos taught. I'll show you the process with the manga I made. I started with a simple grid layout for my pages. This helps as a good starting off point for the layout of the page and makes the thumbnailing process easier to deal with. What you'd normally see in manga is 9 panels per page. But the problem I had in the past when I did manage to finish making a comic was that my pages were a cluttered mess. So, taking the lesson of less is more from the Fixing Dragon Ball Super video, I chose to use 6 panels per page. I did this because to me, it makes for a cleaner, more streamlined look. It also gives more room for the artwork. But in future revisions, I did decide to sneak in an extra panel on the first page to add an emotional beat near the end. I'll explain why later. Next, with the key points of my script in mind, I jotted down notes directly on the thumbnail pages. This helped me remember where crucial moments and dialogues should be placed, ensuring that the narrative flows logically and effectively. But how do you figure out what those key points of a story are? I break it down in my video, How Jesus Can Help You Effortlessly Plot Your Manga or Comic Book with His Storytelling Method. Long title I know, but check it out if you'd like a more detailed explanation. Link will be in the description, but essentially, I thought about what the reader needs to know to get the most of what they're reading. Who the characters are. What they want and why. Why do their desires cause conflict between the characters? How are they going to solve it? The lesson I learned from the 3rd video about fixing the Dragon Ball Super manga is that clarity is key. While arranging the panels, the videos talk about keeping a reverse Z pattern in mind to ensure a smooth flow from one panel to the next. Explained in the sound and movement video, you want to help the reader experience the story in a way that's easy to follow. Like this example I made of a page from One Punch Man. The flow of the manga goes from one element to the next, helping the reader experience the chain of events from Genos, the guy with the robot arms, perspective. But I want to reach a North American audience. So I simply reverse the reverse Z pattern so that my manga reads left to right, instead of right to left. In making this manga, I also wanted to apply skills I've learned and developed over my life into the stories I make. One of those things being studying traditional, hand-drawn animation in college and time in the animation industry. For about 10 plus years of my life, I was a traditional and digital 2D animator. Perhaps it seems like it would have been a no-brainer to find ways of how these similar skill sets help each other out, but for a long time I didn't make the connection. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But I think sometimes, it's easy to put each skill in a box, thinking that this skill is for this, and that skill is for that, and not see how every experience that the Lord brings you through, develops skills in you that can stack on each other, making you an artist that stands out from the rest. So what kind of skill from animation did I cross over, apart from drawing? One of the principles of animation I learned from my time as an animator is staging. Staging is all about clarity. I kept my panel types straightforward so they didn't distract from the story. Vertical panels were used for full-body shots, while horizontal panels were for wide, medium, and close-up shots. It's simple but still varied enough to keep things dynamic. The placement of the characters on the screen is one thing, but it's also about clarity in your acting choices for the character so that the viewer can understand what the character is doing and why. The placement of the camera is also important. Where the camera is can help to say a lot about the emotion the characters are feeling and their situations without any dialogue. For instance, drawing the antagonist as if the camera is looking up at him, makes him appear more dominant and imposing. In contrast, close-ups of the protagonist, especially from the eyes up, helps to sell he's deep in thought. But because of the constraints I gave myself, which I talked about in my video about having ADHD, link in the description, I don't have much time to tell the story. So what I decided to do is begin the story in the middle of some implied action so that I can get to the meat of why the characters are fighting each other. This is where I added the extra panel to the page. When the protagonist crushes the syringe, I chose to keyframe this action to emphasize the significance of his decision. Why was this important? Including an extra panel for this moment allowed me to add a reaction shot from the antagonist, enhancing the emotional impact and highlighting the tension between the characters. To me, it also helped motivate the antagonist to explain why they should keep doing the bad stuff they were doing. By using clear staging techniques, I ensure readers can grasp the characters' actions and emotions instantly, keeping them immersed in the story. But the dialogue did get to explaining a lot to the reader, so to hopefully get some grace for that, I tried also showing how the pair got to where they are now. It took a number of passes to nail it, but that's the good thing about thumbnailing. You can quickly try different passes without spending too much time before you land on something you like. This is how I learned how to build towards sharing meaningful stories in a way to captivate readers, by focusing on the core principle of composition and using thumbnails to quickly work through the page layout to tell clear and interesting stories. Hopefully this helped you out, but what's next? Need any help with your character designs? In my next video, I'll share with you the mistakes I made that you need to avoid, and from that, learn a method I now use to not only make cool looking characters but also help you tell your story. Thanks for watching and God bless.